Question number 2. This is a really hard question. Also very short. How do you explain Godhead to non-Christians? I'm going to take a little bit of a cop-out here. I don't really understand it. Okay? How do you explain Godhead? How do you explain the idea of the Godhead to non-Christians? I read somebody in a debate a long time ago say, talking about the nature of God and the Holy Spirit, the nature of the Holy Spirit, he said, just because I don't understand it doesn't mean it's not true. And that made a lot of sense to me. I can't explain to you how a computer microchip works. I can't explain to you how I've got the entire internet in my hand right here. You know, more knowledge than was gathered to any one place prior to the year 1990. Right here in this little tablet. But it works. It does what it says it does. It's real. It is, even though I can't explain how it works, how it functions. I can in general broad terms, but not down to the minutiae. And for me, it's very similar with the Godhead. And I think one of the reasons is human beings, and I am a human being, human beings understand things by analogy. Human beings understand one thing by understanding something else. You say, well, it's like this, or have you ever seen that? Well, when it comes to the nature of God, when it comes to the relationship of the Father, Son, and the Holy Spirit, I don't have an analogy. I don't have something where I can explain what it means to be eternal. I don't have anything to explain transcendent. I don't have anything to explain unchangeable or ever-present. It's beyond my comprehension. It's beyond my powers of understanding and far beyond my powers of explanation. God's ways are higher than His ways, than our ways. His thoughts are higher than our thoughts. So there is a drastic limitation on our ability to understand and to explain. So I give you that as a caveat at the beginning. But here's the analogy that I would use. The analogy is this. It's like a family corporation. You have a father and 2 sons, and they own the corporation. And they each own an equal share, but the dad's the boss. They work together. The dad has complete respect for the son. Each son, the sons and the dad each have different spheres of operation. One manages this part, one runs production, one runs sales, one runs the finance. And they all work together, and they never contradict each other, and they always share with each other, and they each take an equal share. Something similar to that. Think about the Wright Brothers, late 1800s. They own a bicycle shop in Ohio. And they said, you know what? We're going to build a flying machine. And these 2 bicycle mechanic brothers build the first machine that they can actually launch into the air on its own propulsion and guide it. And they developed all kinds of technologies and patents for keeping it from going this way and keeping it from going this way. And each one had different things and did different things, but they were a team. They worked together. In some sense, the Godhead is like that. They have different functions, but they have this immense closeness. Now, Genesis 1, verse 26. Then God said, let us make man in our image, according to our likeness. Let them rule over the fish of the sea, over the birds of the sky, over the cattle, over all the earth, and over every creeping thing that creeps on the earth. That's Genesis chapter 1. God refers to Himself in a plural sense. He speaks to himself in plurality. Let us make man in our image. So the Bible, in its very first chapter, reveals that there are more than one personality in God, in the divine being. Deuteronomy chapter 6, verse 4. Hear, O Israel, the Lord is our God. The Lord is one. Literally translate that. Hear, O Israel, Yahweh is Elohim. Same word in Genesis 1. God said Elohim. Deuteronomy 6. Yahweh is Elohim. Yahweh is one. Elohim is plural. God is one. Yahweh is one. Yahweh has more than one personality, but Yahweh is unified. It's really hard to understand. I can't fully comprehend it. I can say it, but even as I say it, I'm like, I can't picture it. I don't have an analogy to associate it with. John chapter 16, verse 13. But when He, the Spirit of truth, comes, He will guide you into all the truth. For He will not speak on His own initiative, but whatever He hears He will speak, and He will disclose to you what is to come. He will glorify me, for He will take of mine and disclose it to you. All things that the Father has are mine. Therefore I said that He takes of mine and will disclose it to you. There in John 16, you have all three. You have all things that the Father has are mine. The Holy Spirit will come. The Holy Spirit will take of mine and declare to you. You have the Father, Son, and the Holy Spirit. Three personalities. The Godhead, traditional evangelical, and not evangelical, traditional Christianity has used the word Trinity. The word Trinity is not in the Bible, but the word Godhead, which appears in Acts 17, Romans chapter 1, I think in the King James, doesn't appear in every one because it means, it comes from the Greek word theos, which is a general term for God. So I don't use the term Trinity, but I don't think it's an inaccurate description of this idea, which is a very difficult idea to grasp. But there are three beings included in Yahweh. The Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. They are extremely unified, but they are separate personalities. How does that work? I simply can't go any further. I just can't go any further. I can't understand it any more deeply than that.